Connection points to remove the bumper. There are a number of screws underneath here which will require you to remove this trim over the top before doing that. The workshop manual calls to not remove the headlights. However, removal wouldn't be so bad, but installation, there's a big tab and a bunch of plastic that slots in underneath here. It's going to be much easier to avoid damage if the lights are removed, and removal of that is pretty simple. There's a number of screws underneath here that you would get access to quite happily whilst the car is not lifted. But the problem is that there is a connection point inside here which requires you to remove the wheel liner, as well as electrical connections on both sides behind the wheel liner. And also on the far side, you have the headlight cleaning hoses that need to be disconnected. This car doesn't have that system, but if you did have that, that would need to be disconnected. And again, that is behind the wheel liner. And to remove the wheel liner, the wheel needs to come off. You'll need to remove the rear one first and then the front, which is a bit of a pain. If you don't have the ability to lift the car easily, you might just want to lift one side first, remove the wheel liners, detach what you need to on the inside there prior to putting the wheel back on, lowering it, and then go and do the other side. To remove the headlight, just need to get your trusty tool out of your tool kit. There are 3 plugs on the inside here once you remove the tool kit on each side. It's the lower one of those that you need to put this into. I'm not sure if you can see on the other side here. The 2 at the top here are for headlight adjustment, which is done in the factory. But the lower one, just got to put that tool in there until it locks into place. And once it locks into place, see that one's already unlocked. You're going to rotate it. If the bit on the end of the tool is pointing up, you're going to rotate it towards the rear. So like that. Rotate it forward so it's loose, and then let it come back a little bit, and now we can wiggle it out. Now I've disconnected the plug at the back here, but once you get it to this position here, so you don't damage the bumper or any of the surrounding paintwork, I would suggest putting a big rag underneath here, so when you pull it out like this and you're reaching your hand down to disconnect the plug, which is there, it looks like that one, it's just a simple pull back on that and pull it rearwards. So have that rag down there so you can not damage anything, and then once it's disconnected you can pull that whole thing out. When we're moving the tool, that's the thing that it's doing there. So unlocking it's doing that, locking it is going to do that. And on the inside here, just out of interest, there are the 2 connections there, or the 2 points where you would adjust the headlights. You don't have to worry about putting that tool on the wrong one and misadjusting those, because the Allen key tool that you've got in your toolkit doesn't fit those, it's too big. For installation, have your rag down there, put the headlight down, connect the plug, and then you can remove your rag. Have a look down the sides, because there are 2 lugs that the headlight slides into. And then what I'm going to do is, once that's in there, I can just slide, I'm actually going to slide it all the way rearwards, and then it's just a simple click and it's locked in place. To remove the bumper, one of the first things you need to do is remove the front wheel well liner. To remove the front one, you need to remove the rear one, or you can get it out and get it in, but it is difficult, and removing the rear is so simple, you're better off doing that, in my opinion. When you are removing these, there are, on the rear, there are 2 of those 10mm plastic nuts in there. And then there are some screws on the inside, as well as a few underneath. When you're doing this, take notice of, especially on the underside, how everything, for example, the front underbody panel goes below it, whereas the ones at the back here go on top of it, etc. So have a look at those so you install it in the correct way. When you're removing the screws on the inside, the ones underneath, they kind of all look the same. They look like this, except that those on the inside are a T25, and they don't, I'm not sure if you can see that, but they don't have this ridge on them. It's the ones that go underneath here, and especially at the front, and that hold all the bumper on, that have those ridges. They're a T30, so Just be aware that there are separate screws for separate locations, they're not all identical. And once we remove all those screws, the rear one, and it's designed to slide inwards and then it can be pulled out, so you push that and then that just comes out. For the front wheel liner, there are a few screws on the insides here that need to be removed, and there are 4 on the underside. The ones on the underside connect to the bumper, and they are those type with the ridge on them. And getting this thing out is a bit of a pain, and have a look at underneath here how it's all slotted in and where bits go, because there's some bits that go at the bottom and some slot in underneath particular parts of the bumper. But I find the best way to do it is to grab hold of it and move it as far rearward as possible. Pull out a little bit to start off with, and then it's going to have to come out from underneath the bumper bar here, and you'll just need to pull it out a little bit to allow that to come free, and obviously the reverse for installation, where you put it as far rearward back as possible and then slide it forward to the correct position. And that's one of the reasons why you need to remove the rear one, because it's screwed in here and there's an overlap with the rear cover being over the top of the front, and if you don't remove that rear cover, then sliding this rearward to get this out is really difficult. And what I've found in the past is that the clips come off and it's just a complete pain to try and do it without the rear out. To get access to the screws on the bumper that are underneath here, we need to remove this piece of trim, which requires this piece of trim on both sides being removed. Before you do that, remove the seal on the inside of the front boot. And then for this one, we're going to pull from here. There are 3 plugs that just go into the frame. You can move that out of the way. And then we just pull up. There are 2 clips there and there that go into the chassis. And then in here, there's a lug that goes into there, and that one there goes into there's a little tab here. And so they just pull rearward. So once you have disconnected from the rear, you pull up those 2 clips there, this thing just slides rearwards, and it's a reverse to install. This one here, obviously the hand is out at the moment, but there are just 4 clips in there, it just pulls straight up. And then you sort of wiggle it out through that little gap that they've given you there. Take that out, there are those 4 clips, they just pull straight up out of here. And then we have 3 screws that need to come out there. Additionally, on the underside here, there is a clip that needs to be pulled out. And it's a big metal thing about so long, because the bumper has a bit that goes through a hole in this part of the panel here and holds it to it. And all you need to do is just get a pick tool like that, just put it through there and then just pull it out like that, and now that has come free. So we did that on both sides. On the inside of the wheel well, there will be a single electrical connector in there. That's just a pull on that and they just pop straight out. There's going to be one of those on each side. In addition to that, there's going to be a single screw there which attaches this panel to the bumper there. This car doesn't have the headlight washer system on it, but according to the workshop manual on the left-hand side here, there is a connection that runs down the side that needs to be disconnected. So there should be a hose that comes from the washer bottle, which is directly behind the wheel on the left-hand side. On the underside, we should already have removed the liner on the inside of the wheel well. So these screws here should have already been disconnected from the bumper, and the only ones you'll need to remove are the 3 from there. And with all those connection points disconnected, the bumper can just be pulled off. A couple of things to be aware of in here, where the poker from this thing goes through, it'll most likely bind up on the hole that it goes through here, so you'll need to sort of just wiggle that clear. In addition to that, these pieces here on the end that hold on to the indicator, you just need to pull those sideways a little bit and just allow those to come out. It's not going to fall down because there's a big piece of plastic here that everything's going to be sitting on. And for installation, I would suggest having a box or something like that for it to sit on, because what you want to do is move it into place. The electrical connections on the ends here are going to get in the way, so you'll need to feed those around the back so they don't get jammed up. And then also on the bits here, these clips that go around the corner here, you'll have to sort of feed those in place because they need to come around, and then they're going to slot over these ridges here. And then once that's all in place on both sides, be careful it doesn't sit over the top of the lever here. It needs to go underneath that, and then it should just push into place. There's a couple of little tabs where it goes into, for example, here on the headlight holder. But apart from that, the big danger is damaging this here on the edges of the indicators. So I would suggest, if you could, having two people do it, one person pushing in and the other person helping out on either side. But it's definitely doable by, with one person. I've been doing this, I've probably done it a dozen times. I haven't done any damage, but I can see there is a risk with that. The first thing I do is put these clips on the inside here, and then everything else is the reverse. To disassemble the individual components on the bumper, once you've got the thing off, if you need to do that, and it's the same on both sides. Starting at the top here, you've got the indicator, there's a plug, you just need to disconnect that and pull that out. And there's a single clip here, you just push that down and that just rotates straight out. There's a sort of a lug at the back that it's holding on, which is actually quite tight, that you'll need to sort of rotate it around, it'll pop out. Installation is the reverse. Again, it's quite tight, you've got to get it in the lug at the back in here first, and then clip into place. If you have the parking sensors, single clip that just pops straight off, and it's got two clips, and they just pull straight out. They're really simple. For the center portion here, if you, for example, you're putting in a third radiator and you needed to put in a new centerpiece here, these clips here, just get a screwdriver and sort of lever them like that, and they'll clip out like that. You go all the way around, there's about a dozen or so of those. That thing just pulls straight out, and then once you push it back down to place, you just need to get your screwdriver and push down to latch all those on the clips on it. For the LED light here, there's a single electrical connector. Press, pull that off. There are three of these torque screws, on there, and one on the underside there. And then once they are removed, then you can push this plastic piece out of the way, and it's sort of locking on a few little clips in here. Push that sideways, and then that whole thing just pulls straight out. If you want to remove this piece here, first thing I would do is disconnect all the electrical connections. The harness is still going to be connected up here, but disconnect all of these. And the one up the top, and that's for the indicator, and that's the one that connects to the car. There's a clip there up the top, just pull that off so this thing can come free. And then on the other side, there is the cover for these horizontal bits. These bits here need to come off first. There are other clips at the back here that you don't really have access to. So what you want to do is to start off with, just unclip that there. There's one on each of those, like that. And then there's this big barred bit, and these are all pretty soft. They're not going to break, and then you just push that all the way through. So that now is just hanging free out the back for both of those. And then once I pull this bit off, then I'll have access to the clips that finally allow this to be removed from the other side. And now what I'm going to do is go around the perimeter of this. There are the clips that are similar to the ones on this, so you just put your screwdriver in there and I'll lever those up. So I'm going to go around the perimeter and do that to all of those. And once you get all of those off, there are 3 in here which are different. And you can see I've disconnected that one before, but there's a barb on the lower side of it, so you'll need to stick your screwdriver in here and lever that out. Sometimes these are a bit difficult. You may need to just get a tool on the inside here. There are those 3 clips there, and just slide it down and push it off like that. And then once it's off, they should just pull out the other side. There we go. And once that other piece is removed, then these clips can be removed. There's a barb on the lower side, so you can just get your screwdriver and then just push those out. To remove this piece on the underside of the bumper, there's a single Torx screw there that has an expansion rivet connected, so you just disconnect and pull that out. And then there's a clip on the inside here, so you push it that way and then push that outwards. And then this thing just slides out this way. You'll probably need to get a hammer and a screwdriver and give it a bit of a whack, because there'll be lots of dirt and grit and that sort of thing inside there. But yeah, it'll just slot straight out. Obviously the installation is reverse, and the nice thing about this is that each of those little things it holds onto the bit that it slides into, they're a little bit staggered, and the beauty of that is what it allows you to do is start at this end and just put that one in a little bit, move it across a little bit, then put that one, then that one, and just move it along a little bit each time, and eventually it goes in, rather than trying to have to align the whole lot of them at the one time.